the shame over our sexuality, our attraction, our self-expression. When it harms no one, there is no room for shame.
This is lovely. I'm excited to be speaking with Anita Doron, the director of Maya and Samar. Anita, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Honestly, this is a lovely film. It's beautiful. It's challenging. Where did it come from?
It initiated in the mind of Tamara Faith Berger, a writer who wrote Lie With Me. She's a novelist, and she created the story, and it ended in my hands and in my collaborators' hands.
Well, it is a beautiful film. The relationship between these two is so complicated in so many ways, and so tender in others. And one of the things that certainly in this film is the sexuality is used almost politically in some ways. We see sex in films and it usually represents something. And I'm wondering in your mind, what does the sexuality between sexual relationship between these two represent in this film?
It is an expression of their freedom. And in the film, we were overjoyed to present female sexuality, sexual femininity. That's funny too. That works. Not as decoration, not as titillation, but as an experience from inside the woman's skin, what it means to feel lust, what it means to want somebody or give and receive pleasure. And this is such an innate part of human experience. For us, sexuality, and for the characters, sexuality is spiritual. It's not shameful. It's real. It's beautiful. It's the purest way to connect. And this is what happens to them. And I wanted to portray it with the actresses in the most authentic way possible.
Uh, Not to focus entirely on this point, but I'm just asking here for a moment. You mentioned it's a spiritual connection, and these women, how do you prepare them for this sort of relationship on screen? You've got two actors performing, embodying these characters, and you want to bring that depth of connection out. What sort of conversations go into it to prepare them for these sorts of scenes?
Ah, great question. Well, it starts with building the character and understanding the character and all its complexity and nuance and beauty. And then talking almost in a poetic way of what sex and sexuality means to them. Really breaking it down so we're all on the same page, so we all bring our own ideas and vision to it. It was a collaboration. And once we have a really good sense of this sexual story, because it's a story of the
Mhm.
body between them, a story of the lust, then we break it down in a more technical way. Then it becomes almost like a stunt. How are we going to translate it to screen? So we separate it from this visceral. Once we find it and we feel it and we go into it deep, then we build it technically. And with the help of intimacy coordinators who then um, also help with even finding, well, obviously establishing the comfort of the actors and making sure that there's somebody there for them and looking out for them. But then we just truly, truly, very technically, it's actually quite interesting breaking down a sex scene and how you shoot it. And how, if you look at it as a stunt, how do we get the sense of excitement, of near climax, of the skin rising, of this feeling? How do we get it, in a very technical way? Which way do we position the body? Where does the camera have to be to create this feeling, which we already established and built from a much more poetic place? So it's really the poetry and the technical aspect coming together. And then in a safe and protected and considerate environment that is closed and is respectful.
See, that's a fascinating tension because, like you said, it's intimate and respectful in a closed environment, but at the same time, it's almost like stunt work. I've never heard that before, but this positioning and how these characters sort of come alive in these moments, I could see that, and that's fascinating. That's fascinating.
Because
Oh,
normally my approach to filmmaking is very much have creating a moment and having it live, but you cannot do that with sex scenes, so that becomes very, very technical and very precise.
absolutely. But the thing about this film too that I think is so fascinating is the combining the cross-culture conversation that's going on here, and also, you know, with Samar especially, the power of shame. And I wondered for you, as your for these characters, what is the power of shame, especially when it comes to sexuality? But you know, like you said, sexuality represents freedom. But what is the power of shame that continues to hold people in such a tight grip?
Can I swear on your podcast?
Sure, if you'd like.
Is it a family-friendly podcast?
I don't know who's listening, but I know
All right.
people are.
Fuck shame. This is what this film is about. Fuck shame. Shame is an artificial construct we must fight against. This kind of shame, you know, the shame over our sexuality, our attraction, our self-expression. When it harms no one, there is no room for shame.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, this is the tension here, and Samar's journey as a woman, as an Afghan woman who is, you know, who is dancing in the club, if you will. You know, there's that question of oppression that's going on, which makes Maya's journey that much more interesting, to be perfectly honest, because you have a young woman who believes she's doing her story is an act of justice, but maybe doesn't completely understand what's going on the other side. I was wondering if you could speak to that tension because there is this clash of worlds that's taking place between these characters.
Yes, there is an assumption from the global north represented by Maya of what it means to be a refugee or maybe shame or struggling or victimhood. But Samar shows her that it's much more nuanced and she has her own agency and she makes her own decisions and you know it's kind of like subverting the expectations of the audience and of the character of Maya and this white savior, you know, not necessarily white, but Western saviorism that often happens where the character on the other end is much more complex and is ahead of the game and has their own ideas and their own agency.
Yeah, I actually, that was the part of the film I thought I connected with most deeply was this sort of like, well, this is the right thing. Well, hold on, maybe we need to consider a different worldview here. I think even it says there's a conversation of stories crossing the border of cultural understanding, which I thought was fascinating.
Yeah, it's a very nuanced, you know, we need to tell each other stories. Yes, but we cannot make assumptions. And in certain contexts, you have to be quick and you have to make conclusions. So you create shortcuts or you sensationalize things, but there is no room to sensationalize. You have to look at the simple, deep reality of things, and it's maybe less sexy, it's maybe less headliney.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to hear from you. I know we're running out of time, but just as we wrap, what do you hope pe audiences take away from Maya and Samar's journey and relationship?
I hope they become curious about a woman like Samar. And I hope, like with any film I make, it erases the sense of any sense of us and them and otherness. And it's an empathogen that makes you erase the borders between you and another person and become intensely and truly curious and
I
open.
appreciate. Oh, I'm sorry. Um,
All good.
I appreciate that, Anita. Thank you so much for the time. Maya and Samara is in theaters March 20th, and I appreciate the chance to chat with you about it. Thank you so much for the time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.